welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to answer your question, how to do owner financing on a home. To start with, the owner has a lot of commonalities with people when they retire. They're all concerned, what are they going to do about income? Yes, they got some Social Security. Yes, they have some money in the bank. Why not think about what's legal and ethical is that you could sell your property and use owner financing on that home. Would that make a difference? Yes, because you could do that and get 120 payments, which would be 10 years, or 240, which would be 20 years. You could get those payments, and then you could stop worrying about whether you're going to have enough money. Now, traditionally, what happens on property is people want to sell, and when they want to sell, the first thing you want to do is they're going to hire a broker. The broker will immediately go to a bank and make sure they can get bank financing on the property. All right. Now, as the broker goes through the process of selling it, they're earning a commission. Okay. Then they're going to earn the commission. Then they're going to take the people to the bank, and then there's going to be fees for the bank to collect. Meanwhile, you're going to have to do everything from appraisals to home inspections to many other reports. And when you have to do those, you're going to have to pay for all that. So suddenly, the 100% you're selling it for is going to start dropping down. Why is it going to drop down? Because generally it takes about 10% to sell a property. So if it's a $100,000 property, you could spend as much as $10,000 selling it. That's not unusual. All right, but if you could sell it yourself and you could save that $10,000, that would be $10,000 more that you could be earning money with. All right, so the situation that most people are confronted with is they haven't thought about the situation. So they've waited and they've waited and they've waited, and now they're going to have all these expenses. Well, if you think about it ahead of time, why couldn't you sell the property with an installment sale and a contract? Yes, you could do that. You could have an attorney write the contract, or you could go to a title company. My clients do this all the time. Why do they do that? Because we buy properties at tax defaulted auctions. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. All right, so in the United States, everyone is allowed to own a property. Okay, it's a privilege, okay? All right, now you can do what you want with it. You can put cattle on it. You could use agriculture on it. You could build an orchard on it. You could just build a house to live in. So you can do anything you want. You only have one requirement, and that is you have to pay taxes. All right, so what are you going to do at this house when you're finished with it? What are you going to do it? It's been a privilege. Many people don't end up paying their tax, and they lose the house. Well, the thing to do is think about how you're going to sell it. So the challenge is, if you have a home, is what are you going to do with it? So I'm going to suggest you think about owner financing and owner selling of the property. Why? So you can save yourself a whole bunch of money. Traditionally, everybody sells. They get a lump sum. Now, what are you going to do with this lump sum? Well, think about that. What are you going to do with that lump sum? You're going to put it in the bank? Banks are paying about 1% today. 1%. Why couldn't you use seller financing and earn 8 or 9% every year? And if you did that every year, you'd have a nice income. So traditional sellers find the broker, they let them do the work, the bank finance it, now they got a lump sum, and they're paying taxes on the lump sum. It would be better to think of another way to do it. So the traditional home sale is lump sum comes to you, and you can move on to whatever you want. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just suggesting that if you think about selling with an installment sale and carry the paper for 10 years or 20 years or whatever you want, now you have got not a mortgage in your hand, but you got a contract that will pay you on a regular basis. Nothing wrong with that. All right, so first thing I would do is I'd check in the market. Is it strong? If the market's strong, that's a good time to sell. If the market's weak, then maybe you have to wait a little while. All right, I'd also check and see if the local bank does financing, or if there's financing readily available. If financing isn't available because real estate's in a slump, now you've got a competitive advantage because you'll do the financing. A lot of people will pay you more for that property because you'll give them financing. All right, so what are we talking about today? How to do owner financing on a property. You want to learn how to do this. All right, now you could do it with a mortgage. You could do it with a deed of trust, whichever your state happens to use. Or I'm going to recommend you learn how to have an attorney write a contract so that you could sell the property with a contract, and then you could hold on to the title. So that title document, you keep that. Okay, you don't give that to the buyer until such time as they've completely paid you. All right, so a good source of information for all of this kind of information is Zillow, Facebook, multiple listing service. You can start checking around and find out what property values are, what's available in the marketplace, Are you competitive at the price you're thinking of? Are you too low? Sometimes you're too low, or are you too high? You want to find out those things ahead of time. It's just a matter of doing a little bit of research. So figure out what the comparables are in your neighborhood. Comparables mean the same price as yours, same comparable house, not comparable house for a lower price, whatever. You want to figure that out. Now don't guess at it, because buyers have already done all that. The buyers have already figured out how much money they're going to be able to spend and what kind of payments they're going to make. All right, so think about your price. What are you going to sell it for? Are you willing to take a down payment and then payments for 10 years or 20 years so that you have the security of having income? Now keep in mind, some of those people won't pay. They'll walk away. They'll say, no, we're not going to pay. If they don't, no problem. You still get the title to the property because you have a contract. Okay, if they don't pay you, you ask an attorney to have them evicted. It's easy as that. You don't have to go through a mortgage foreclosure. You don't have to do any of that. So you have a competitive advantage with two things. Number one, if you can price it right. And number two, if you can use installment contract. That's up to you. Now, this is happening all the time. So a typical deal would be like you see on the screen right now. All right, property values $250,000. You want to get about 10% down, and the rest you're willing to take payments on. Well, figure out what 10% is on $225,000. I can tell you right now, you're going to have $20,000 in income right now. $20,000 income spread over 12 months. What's wrong with that? All right, what if you did that for 10 years? You bring in another $250,000. Well, that's a lot of income and a lot of security for you. Now, these are typical deals. People do it all the time. Why? Because not every buyer qualifies. A lot of buyers have poor FICO scores. In other words, they got a divorce, or they had a bankruptcy in their history, or they didn't make a payment, or maybe they just had poor judgment and got themselves in trouble. So when your sign shows up with seller financing, believe me, they don't drive 2 more blocks before they turn around and come back. Why? Because they know they can do business with you. They don't know they can do business with a bank, because the bank will turn them down because they have a low FICO score. All right, now, these people aren't used and abused, but they've probably made some mistakes. Now, the mistakes they made can be recovered easily. How? If they got a good job and they got making good money. So there's a lot of people with bad FICO scores, and guess what? They make good money, and they're able to make their payments, and they'll be able to make the down payments. So you can pick your own interest rate as long as it's legal. You have to pay attention to truth in lending laws and disclosure, but a title company will guide you through that for very low dollars. Why? Because they want your title business, and they have contracts, and you can use their attorneys. That's a lot cheaper than a regular attorney. I'm not saying don't go to an attorney. I am saying go to an attorney, but I'd also check with a title company because it's a lot cheaper, a lot cheaper. So think about what we're talking about here. Could you sell this way? Well, owner financing is on the majority of the properties in the Middle West. That's how they sell farms, they sell office buildings that way, they sell big agricultural properties, big cattle raising ranches, also on a contract for the deed. So you have a contract that you have the person sign, but you don't give them the deed. That's the title. They don't get that until they made the final payment. People are familiar with that, and if they're not, you can have the title company explain it to them, or the attorney can explain it to them. If they don't want to do it, just move on to the next one. Believe me, you have a competitive advantage the day you say that you'll offer seller-owner financing. It makes a big difference. Now, do you want a 10-year loan, 20-year loan, a 30-year loan? Well, it's going to depend upon the amount of money you're talking about. If it's just a small property that costs $50,000 and you're financing it, just do 5 or 10 years, and they can make the payments. All right, if it's a bigger property, you're probably going to have to do 10 years or 20 years. Why? Because you got to get the payment down, because people have to live, and they still have to make their payment. All right, so remember, 10 years is 120 months. Okay, that's standard on properties under $100,000. You decide what you want over $100,000. All right, now keep in mind, the seller is going to keep the title to the property. In other words, you're going to leave that in your safe deposit box. Nobody's getting that title, because if they get the title, you have to go through a foreclosure. You have no foreclosure to worry about. If you have the title, you just evict them. You just call an attorney and evict them if they don't pay you. So these people are going to pay you. All right, now, my clients buy a lot of properties at tax defaulted auctions. How do they do that? Well, the local governments sell properties at auction. And when they sell them, they're properties they confiscate. They sell for 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar. That means you get discounts like you see on the screen, 60, 70, 80% discount, and there's no mortgage on the property. Now, what are they going to do with the property? I can tell you with it. They bought it low, so they're going to sell it low, and they're going to use installment contracts. Why do they do that? because there's big money to be made in the installment contract. Who's their client going to be? It's going to be that 20% that the bankers say no to. The banker sees that FICO score and they say, forget it. Okay, they reject those people. So people have been rejected at the bank. They will notice your sign that says seller finance. They'll notice that in a second. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about how to do owner financing on a property. Every one of you that's watching me right now should consider that, unless you need all the money to do something with. But when you get all the money, remember you're going to have to pay taxes on it. All right, and you're going to have to pay a lot of commissions on it. So it might be better to sell it and get income and use that income all the way into the future, all right? Now, tax defaulted properties, we buy these all the time at auction. We're trying to buy them with 60, 70, 80% discounts. The mortgage has been wiped out. I don't wipe the mortgage out. The county wipes the mortgage out. County is gone. So those properties are sold for very low money, 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and then they can be marked up. So there's a margin between the marketplace and buying it at 20 cents on the dollar. Well, if you can buy a property for 20 cents on the dollar, you don't have to sell it for 100. Sell it for 60 cents on the dollar or 75 cents on the dollar, whatever you want. If you can buy it cheap, why not sell it cheap and get rid of it quickly? So we're going to show you a perfect example right now. So here's the example. Property has a value of $100,000 at the auction. All right, but you go and you're a bidder. Now some of these properties will go for 5 or 10 cents. All right, let's say you got it for 20 cents on the dollar. So that means you spent $20,000. You've got an 80% discount. How good is that? Now you can hold out for the $100,000, but why not sell it quickly for something a little less than that? Now how would you sell it? Use Craigslist, use Zillow, use Redfin, use eBay. There's many ways to sell it. Put it in the newspaper, put signs on it, put signs out there that say seller financing, and you'll see a big change will take place. I mean a big change. All right, so where are we? We got a tax assessed value, $100,000. We paid $20,000. How about if we put it out at $60,000? Now look at the profit margin. Look at the margin in that. So we bought it low, now we're going to sell it low. Well, the buyer comes in and said, I won't pay 60, but I will pay 55. What are you going to say? No? Heck no. You only paid 20. Go ahead and sell it. So go ahead and take financing. So the buyer wants financing. Let's get the payments down where they can afford it. So in this case, we tell them we want payments for $800 a month for 10 years. So we want $800 a month for 10 years. Figure that out times 120. Folks, that's $96,000. Hold on. What have I done here? I invested $20,000. And in a 10-year period of time, I'm going to get $96,000. Where are you going to make that kind of money in any other business? The original sale was a $100,000 value. We bought it for $20,000. Now we're selling it for $55,000. And guess what? We're getting extended payments for 10 years. You see the value in seller financing? This is something you really want to think about. What if you had a big, expensive $200,000 property? Okay, so the seller is offering payments. All right, so you get a down payment, and they allow payments. The original investment was $20,000. Now you're going to come out with $96,000. Folks, if that isn't valuable, I don't know what is. Now, my name is Ted Thomas, and go right below me, and there's a free gift.